Hello, everyone, and thanks, Matthew, for inviting us for presenting now. We're excited to be here. My name is Rafael Mercado, sitting on the back. I'm responsible for blockchain services for specifically the North America region for 7 industries that, basically are the industries that have deal with a lot of use cases in supply chain. So I do not cover healthcare, for example. I do not cover financial services. And we have Ana Arizawa, who is our business development lead for one of our platforms in IBM, which is called TradeLens. I think we have 20 minutes, and the idea of these 20 minutes is to try to have, I'm going to be speaking like 10 minutes, Ana, the other 10 minutes, on really examples that are flourishing, leveraging permission blockchains. I'll detail maybe 3 or 4 very quickly, 1 or 2 minutes, and then Ana will do a deep dive on TradeLens specifically. Okay? So with that said, so it was perfect that our presentation came right after Joaquin, where he explained, the difference between public and permission. I just want to highlight, the summary of the summary as to why permission blockchains in the case of IBM is needed to unlock value for different enterprises, right? For companies, big, medium-sized companies out there, right? Public and cryptocurrencies, blockchains, basically net you see all the transactions that happen and the detail, but you do not see who actually did it most of the time, depending on the blockchain. In permissioned, funny enough, is the other way around. You are most of the time allowed to see who actually did the transaction, but not the transaction itself. And this was a shift in thought that needed to happen. And as you know, blockchain has like 10 years already, and permissioned blockchain, or at least blockchain for the enterprise, arose 3 to 4 or 5 years ago because we needed to make changes in how the concept of blockchain was being made to be adopted by businesses, because businesses want to still protect the data, but still have the main capability of blockchain to distribute the ledger, have the trust among different participants, and have the data being immutable. Okay? At the top, those figures are like 1 year old, so they're very dynamic, ever-changing, and that's for me why I'm like super passionate to be in this space, right? For blockchain is how it's evolving the internet to be an internet of like complete value. You see figures over there as to, they expect by 2025, so in 5 years from now, 10% of the GDP will be transacting on blockchains. You see by 2030, there's going to be $3.1 trillion of business value added. That doesn't mean that the value of the assets stored in the blockchains is like 176. It means that it's unlocking value for businesses, either creating new business models, new revenue streams, optimizing costs, or what have you. And on the right side, it's the estimated size of the market by 2021. Okay? So when I see this list, to be honest with you, 2-3 years ago, we had a massive laundry list of use cases that we were trying to tackle with blockchain, right? It was like a hammer in looking for a nail, and that was not the right approach. That list has been, shortening and shortening, and I would expect that, at least from the IBM side, I would like that list to be half that size. Of course, blockchain, in combination with IoT, advanced analytics, machine learning, will unlock value in different use cases. But there's so many bets that you can do to really have that technology have a disruptive power. So I'm just going to show you an example of 3 or 4 different use cases that we see a lot of potential, and we actually have networks in different stages, in production pilot, production networks, and POCs. The first one is in dispute management resolution. So we're working with different firms. In particular, there's one retailer that they receive $60 billion in POs, where between 1 or 2% of the PO amount value is disputed. So you can imagine that between 1 or 2% is almost $1 billion that they, on a daily basis, weekly, monthly basis, they're fighting with their vendors to see what happened with the merchandise, your invoice was wrong, I did not receive the whole quantity, so on and so forth. So we're building different platforms, and with this retailer in particular, it's very interesting because they're saying, okay, I have 200 to 300 suppliers. I want to create a system, a platform, where I onboard my suppliers into this shared layer. They're going to be able to see everything that they ship from their warehouse, all the way to my central warehouse, regional distribution warehouse, to the very end until the consumer shops the good. They're going to be able to see. They're opening their books to see how the inventory is flowing, the quantity, the price, what have you, through the chain, so that when the invoice comes and there's some discrepancies, everybody can see the ledger and really make adjustments and avoiding creating disputes in the first place. And if you create a dispute, you have that system, chain of custody or auditing trail to close them faster. This retailer in particular they're thinking that they're not even paying for the development of this solution. They are creating like a fee for those suppliers that if you want your disputes to get smaller, getting paid faster by us, pay us an onboarding fee to be in this platform, and the platform is being paid by itself. Okay? So that's dispute resolution. Let me go to, I bolded the ones that I'm going to speak about, so we checked the box on dispute management. Traceability. This is probably well known by at least half of the room, I would assume, because it was our first proof of concept 3 years ago that we did with Walmart. With Walmart and the chief safety officer, chief food safety officer, he told their team, hey, I have this mango. The problem that I want to solve is every time that there's some spoilage or contamination, I need to recall the product, and there's a huge loss in revenue, huge loss in reputation, and I want to find where it came from and in what stores that product is. So he challenged his team to find a pack of mango, picked at random from a retail store, and they took 6 complete days to find it. We did a pilot, and there's some bandwidth network latency, but basically the result was they found it in 2 seconds. So that's the power. And we've been working with Walmart all these years, Walmart and also other retailers and CPG consumer goods companies to be part of this platform, which is called IBM Food Trust. Okay? Now, this use case of tracing back where is the origin of the product from farm to fork and identifying where the product has been shipped to what retailer was just a start. Because the next stage is not only safety, knowing if something was spoiled or not, like a 0 or a 1, it's good or bad, but now many companies are working with us to identify the freshness or the quality of any given good. So it's like on a continuum line, like how from 0, from being spoiled to 1 being like in perfect state, what is the freshness of that good? And how do you know that? That's where IoT comes into place, where you have temperature readings, vibration, light, humidity, and other sensors along the supply chain that through different algorithms and analytics, you can assess what is the expected shelf life, remaining shelf life of any single good. And even in your central warehouses, you can decide not to do first in and first out, but literally reorder your stock based on the remaining shelf life. This case in particular, we're working with a very big, I cannot announce publicly the name, but it's a really big beef patty distributor that is working with a retail company that has many, many hundreds of thousands of restaurants to map completely, trace back in the blockchain, those beef patties, implemented IoT devices along the way so that those can be recorded in the blockchain and those records can be immutable. And we're running analytics at the store level, at the restaurant level to make decisions as to which beef patties to use, creating alerts on which beef patties are about to expire, so on and so forth. Other companies, such as, and we announced this basically in October of last year, like 3M and Emerson, they don't want to be left behind in this, food trust, food traceability movement with blockchain. So we're working with them to have their devices be IFT, being IBM Food Trust IFT ready, so that the consumers or companies can trust more the data coming from those devices. And we believe those companies, which have a lot of patents from their devices, they bring to the table a lot of algorithms because clients such as Driscoll's, Kroger's, Walmart, they work with with companies such as 3M and others because they buy their devices, they put it in those containers, and they track the temperature, and they go into their dashboards with a lot of readings of if the temperature was on track, creating alerts, what have you. So they want to bring all that know-how, IPs, into the blockchain, merge the data that the supplier, the retailer, and those devices companies have to have one single, source of truth, chain of custody for different producers. Okay? That's the second one. And third, it's probably many speakers already said that there's nobody that can say I'm the most epic guru, most knowledgeable blockchain consultant, blockchain entrepreneur, blockchain executive. this space is moving really fast. Even in my case, I had to update my presentation as of yesterday because I thought that this announcement was really worth mentioning. So yesterday, IBM announced with Ford, with RCS Global, and a South Korean and a Chinese firm to really solve the problem through a pilot of the sourcing of cobalt, which is a component needed for lithium-ion batteries used in vehicles in general. And what happens, and why this is ethical, an ethical, corporate responsibility type of use case, because there's a lot of child abuse, and we have those little kids mining that cobalt in regions like Congo. So we want to have an immutable, a way to record where that cobalt is coming from and what were the, the manufacturing practices that happened when all that information, when all that cobalt was extracted, all from Congo into that cobalt converting into a battery, being installed in a Ford automobile, and where that Ford automobile is at the end of the day. Okay? With that said, I think I scanned through 3 different examples: dispute resolution, a cold supply chain example leveraging IoT devices and analytics, a food traceability with Walmart, and now this announcement that came out in the news yesterday on cobalt sourcing and ethical responsibility. We're going to do one more, so I'm going to give the voice to Anna. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Rafa. So just want to add a comment to the IBM Food Trust, because it was one of the questions regarding the different companies joining the ecosystem that we call Food Trust. We started with Walmart, but we now have many other supermarkets, retails that are joining, because they understand that there is privacy, security, and immutability on the data that we store in our blockchain, and therefore Kroger can be inside IBM Food Trust, and Walmart can be using IBM Food Trust, and they can all have their suppliers. Sometimes are the same, sometimes they're not, but their data is there, and it's only available for those that are permissioned to use. So when we talk about smart contracts, permissioning, and et cetera, that's where the blockchain is embedded in our solutions. And you will see in TradeLens, I'm just going to play a video. So if you were here for the startups presentations, they actually saved me many slides because they show the amount of paper that there is, the complexity. So I'm just going to focus on the solution so that you have an idea of what it is. We have this 3-layered approach, and basically the network is our key foundation, the platform. When we all talk about the importance of ecosystem, as Masha mentioned, it's having the right players at the right place, which we believe is TradeLens, communicating and being able to share essential data in a secure way and a fast way. So basically, when we talk about the network, we're talking about the carriers, ports, custom authorities, 3PLs, and everyone involved in the shipment of a container. The second layer is the platform, where we chose to have open API. So basically, anyone can go now on the tradelens.com website and check out our APIs and work with them. We had an example of a company that was able to start providing data to our platform because they wanted to join. And as long as you're sharing the data to the platform, you're welcome to do that. If you want to consume the platform, information from the platform, you come talk to us to see where we can fit you in one of the nodes that we have for blockchain. The third, application and services, is actually really having an open marketplace where startups or even other companies can come and build applications on top of TradeLens, because we have an example of the invoicing, which is something that now we all know that there's a lot of money going through this, where people have disputes, and we tapped into the information of all the shipping milestones. We cross-check with the information of the shipment rates coming from an ocean carrier, for example. And by cross-checking that, we will know if we need to start a dispute or not. And that type of application, which sits on top of TradeLens, is bringing clients cost reductions in terms of how much they are paying, and also the amount of people doing that job. Big CPG company had 10 people doing this cross-check of invoicing, and now they can utilize those people to a better strategy and supply chain focus. They're saving about 10 to 15% of the cost of one container shipment, which is a lot if you consider how many containers they ship. The second point of, the whole TradeLens idea is really to have, to focus on shipping milestones and data, and also the documentation. On the top layer, you see all the players that I mentioned before: carriers, inland transportation, BCOs who are shipping the products, government authorities, and those people who are communicating. And nowadays, it's a point-to-point interaction that requires a lot of exchange of information that is unnecessary. Many times it has a lot of cost and time involved. And with TradeLens, we will have all the shipping milestones inside our platform, and the documentation that is attached to that specific milestones will also be there. So a good example is when someone is shipping a container from here, the port of Miami, to the port of Rotterdam. There are so many people involved, and sometimes the company that is shipping is sending information to the ocean carrier is sending information to the port is sending information to the government authority. And when we have the blockchain ecosystem as TradeLens, what you're doing is actually having that information available for all the participants of that specific shipment. And the important part to say is that each BCO or shipper or ocean carrier will have its own permissioned way of checking the data that they own and that they can manipulate. So it's not open for everyone. And that's why security plays an important role. That slide was nice. This one is actually, if you're in supply chain logistics and deal with containers, this is actually what's going on. We always talk about this example that we followed. The case study that we had was a shipment of one container of avocado going from Kenya to the port of Rotterdam, included 30 different actors, more than 100 people involved exchanging information, and more than 200 documents. So these are just a part of the shipment milestones that can happen to a container and the documents associated to it. What we envision is really to have, for example, customs authorities to click on a specific certificate of origin or bill of lading that they can actually act upon, which means they will approve or not that document inside our blockchain trade lens platform. And I just wanted to point out that when we created this platform, we knew about a lot of challenges that were mentioned here today. The important part of creating an ecosystem and having people collaborate, cooperate, as was mentioned before, is when you try to find benefits for everyone that is joining your platform. So one example, when we go to talk with customs, they were explaining to us that many times they don't have visibility of the first port that a product was shipped from. And many times, some companies, they make the container go from China to Vietnam so that the customs authority that is receiving the container sees only the last leg. So apparently the product came from Vietnam and we will tax 3%. But actually, the product is from China and they should be taxing it 5%. So the customs authorities are losing money there. There's also the risk assessment of if you're a non-shipper like Walmart, Coca-Cola, customs authorities should not be paying attention that much to those companies because they are pretty much in a list that they have. So when they know and they have a lot of information or enough information to work with in terms of risk assessment, for them is really like reducing amount of time and energy spent to check containers. With that, I think we're done here. I could, if we have time, show the platform user interface, but I think we're running late. So Matthew? Thank you. Ooh, I don't have internet here.
You want my hotspot?
I don't have my phone.
Okay, you can use my hotspot.
Oh, okay.
But it depends on time.
Okay. And after that, lunch is served outside, so when this presentation is finished, we will take a break for lunch. And if you have question, you can raise your hand. True, it's okay.
Why can't we see this? Can't see.
You need to move the browser to what do you want to do?
I don't know where it is, Rafa. It's not working.
Oh, let me try. Probably is. Here you go.
Wow. Okay, so this is our user interface. I'm going to sign in as a shipper called Sunny Farms. And we do a demo. There is a shipment of a container, beef container from Argentina to the Netherlands. I just created this shipment here so that you guys see it, but basically you have all the shipment information here. When I click on this, you will see how many containers there are here. Where is the container right now? This is just a summary. When you click on a specific container, you will have the current progress of where the container is right now and what happened. You can also check the transport plan, which includes also what are the next steps to this container. So currently, it was discharged from the truck at this APM terminal, and it's going to be shipped to the Netherlands on January 20th, with an estimated time of arrival there on February 17th. It's important to check that when I mentioned the ecosystem participants, they are here. And that's why our platforms is built on having the right participants, because they are going to be sending the information directly to the platform. And that's why it's so important to have this real-time information, because sometimes a truck company only sends information to your 3PL, for example, and you don't have the visibility. With TradeLens, we do have, so you can see here the truck company stuffing the container. Also, when there is a change on a planned activity, will you also be able to see that? And when I talked about documents, I'm starting to do a demo here, but it will take longer. I will be here, so whoever wants to see the demo, basically I can add documents to some of the milestones here. So for example, bill of lading, a certificate of origin, so that the government authority and the other country will be able to see it and check. Okay? So thank you. If anyone has questions, otherwise, thanks.